There you go. We're live. See a little bit too much of Doug. There we go. How's that? No. There. Oh, there he is. Hello, Doug. All right, Douglas.
I don't want attention anyway.
Yeah, you do. Hold on. When you hit your head on the mic, poof, like that, and you got it in your ear, it's really loud. So, Douglas.
What we're going to talk about. We just be silent now that we've got this newfound enlightenment. We can just be silent for like an hour, and that'll be the podcast.
And you know what? That would be amazing, and that would be really helpful for everybody as well. Very boring to watch though. So yesterday we had a funeral. And today we can't go out.
And nobody can work.
And nobody can work. And Doug's only here as a house pet because he was here.
I was abandoned by my owners.
By his owners, and
on the roadside.
Yesterday morning he was abandoned on it.
But for just £2 a month.
You two can keep Doug in warmth, shelter, and a bit of pedigree chum.
So he doesn't run out of food.
Yeah. What was I going to say though? I was going to say this. That you were in the car 5:30 yesterday morning. I found him outside, sleeping in a car. I know, that's quite sad. I can hear the. Oh.
But you fed me. You've watered me.
Look at him now.
You've
He's
showered me.
He's all warmed up. I gave him.
Almost human again.
Yeah, and then he came to the funeral just to cheer him up.
Got drunk at the funeral.
He got drunk
during the service.
And then the landlord decided it was.
Oh, should we talk about that, or is that not?
Of the pub.
I've promised I wouldn't say anything.
That's true. Well, he was over there doing a takeaway, which was fine. He's the landlord of the pub, but that doesn't mean he's opened the pub. We weren't in the pub. We were came to the funeral. Mm-hmm. I know him as the landlord of at the pub. Mm-hmm. If you get my point. Mm-hmm. That's his name, Dave. So, was worried that Doug was drunk. And he wasn't. It's just being Doug. And that's presents for you.
But when we got chatting last night, that's the thing that I'd like to continue a conversation on, is that Jordan Peterson stuff and the Eckhart Tolle stuff, I think are opposites.
Okay.
Can you see what I meant when I was making the point last night?
Yes.
That one is very much like the present moment provides you with the solutions to the ways of being. Mm-hmm. And the Peterson argument is that, or perspective is that life is suffering, and that you should take it upon yourself. And I think he referred to it as the unbearable present, and that there's a future that's better, and that you've got to strive towards that. So it very much comes down to how do you what's the way of putting it? How do you class suffering as, in order to use it to your best advantage? Do you use it as a tool to motivate you because you're suffering and you want to get somewhere else to use it as like a drive? Or do you kind of let go of it in a helium balloon and allow whatever's left to be, and that will be, and be in the light kind of thing? So it's sort of like how, because two ways say about the best way of coping with suffering, if that makes sensical.
Yeah.
When you said Eckhart seems to have, when you look at your teacher, you've got to look at the totality of their lifestyle and how they are. It's sort of like, if somebody's like overweight, you wouldn't want to go to them to get a ripped six pack. You want to look at the people that you're emulating to ensure that you're going to end up in the same position, so that you're imitating the outcome that you're after. And Eckhart always seems kind of chill.
Yeah, so I think that the two can be, in some respects, linked together. I think they're different parts of the same whole. On
So
some
how do you
level.
mean? Because I don't see that. I think they're completely different.
They are
This is where the topic, I think, is good for conversation.
Yeah, they are completely different, but they are different parts of a big picture, in my opinion. And I'll say why. So Eckhart will talk about presence being in the moment. But he's also very careful to talk about what clock time is, what that you can't just sit, well, you can just sit on a park bench and do nothing, but you will need to eat and go to the toilet and be somewhere to sleep that's safe and all those other things as well. You will need those things. And those are the things that, interestingly, we've been limited on, in a sense, during this lockdown. But back to the point. So the presence is where you are really you, and you're not inventing imagined scenarios that are causing you pain and suffering, most of which is an imagined thing, in the sense of, if I imagined the funeral was going to get cancelled, if I imagined that something horrible happened to the car, if I imagined that nobody turned up, if I imagined all these things could happen and I would suffer and worry about, but they're all imagined. None of them are real. So if I'm present, none of those things exist, because I'm here right now in this moment, and therefore I've dissolved a huge amount of the suffering that I would cause myself by trying to work out the future or trying to fix the past. Two things that I have no control over. Sorry.
I think the past is pretty much out of the question. Like you say, you can procrastinate and worry about the past and look back, and that's what a lot of therapy focuses on, is talking about the past, the worst things that happened, and going and reliving all that. And I've never understood that. Obviously, you need to sort of deal with certain things, but like, you can't go back to the past, so you can only be in the present moment and move forward. So they seem to be the only two realms under which you have sort of agency.
Yeah, well, you only have agency over now.
That's where it comes back to, but we know that there's a future self.
Yes.
Well, or that, I don't know. But again, do you really know that?
So, yeah,
there's potential.
I think where it can go wrong big time is that people think that when you're saying, "Oh, just be in the present," which is like, "Hey man, hippie, don't care about anything, blah blah blah, whatever, I'll just roll with it," and be that's an irresponsibility to that. Just being irresponsible, you're just saying, "I'll do whatever, it doesn't matter, manana, roll with it," right? But that's not what it is. Presence is being here now to react in the best possible way to what's actually happening, what really is happening. My focus and attention is here, which means that I'll do most certainly a better job of whatever it is that I'm doing.
But even if you're telling a story, because if you're telling a story, if I start to oh well, Paul, I saw, I don't know, my uncle the other day, and he's 65, and when he was 35 years old, he had a granddad that said when he was a child. You see, what I've done is you've opened up all these loops, and in order to imagine that, you're using the imagination to create an image of like what my uncle or whatever looks like. Now you're going back in time when he was 35, so now you've gone back so many years, and now you're talking about his granddad. Like, through storytelling, we kind of use the imagination to kind of go into the past and into the future. So just by listening to someone, even when you're being present, you're also slipping into an alternative reality of the imagination, because we have the capacity to use words to communicate and to tell stories and to be able to paint. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, whereas that's why I think the silence is the best place to go, and that's what I said about the other day of just doing simple activities, making a cup of tea, no talking, no just in silence, because there's just you acting. There's no sort of like, unless you add a story onto it, there's no talking.
Yeah.
So it's difficult when you're listening to, because most people, when you get into all this, you realise that everyone's just having a conversation. You know, you go to Parliament and they're just having a conversation. You know, on the higher echelons of power, or whether it's communal day-to-day stuff, I'll have the kids, you'll do this, that. Everyone's just having conversations and exchanging stories with it. Oh, you never guess what happened to me today. Oh, well, what do you think about this thing happening in the future? Oh, how? That's what politics is. That's what most areas of life are. Is just people just having a conversation about, well, where are we and where do we want to be and what we're going to do together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to sort of like be in the present moment when you're constantly engaging in stories that require the imagination, because you just slip in and out of the present moment all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need to do is you need to live in the world that we're in, with this body and all this stuff, okay, with what you need to do to survive physically. And stories are, in a sense, also quite important, treated properly, particularly when it comes to the past. I think when it's the past is possibly where story makes more sense from the point of view that we can. So I was criticised for saying be present, be in the moment, and people will often jump on that and go, oh well, it means you don't care about history, can teach us, you know, and all that other stuff, and absolutely it can. You can learn lessons from history, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you should give it the right amount of attention, not all of your attention. So you can learn a lesson about how to do or not to, you know, how to, I don't know, make a cup of tea. Somebody tells me a story about how it's been done for years. This is how you make a cup of tea, and you're telling a story. This is how it's been done. This is what it is. But then I can, once that's logged, well, that's good. I can be present again, back here. That's it. And then I guess where story is more dangerous is future, because you're writing a story that you don't know the answer to. Now, of course, but Jordan Peterson would say, well, you need an aim. Got an aim, man. Got to have an aim. You know, and I get that, but I think, again, he's misunderstood from the point of view that, yes, having an aim is fine, but he will say, he won't say have an aim and doggedly move towards it, like just pile over everything, you know, straight through everything. You know, he's saying if you get to a T-junction, maybe you'll take a choice to go left instead of right, and that will take you, and your aim will evolve, or maybe disappear completely for something else. So what he's saying is, as you hit obstacles, you tackle them, you work on them, you hit a problem, or a thing, and you work on, but knowing what that problem really is the key. The key is definitely not thinking I must get to this aim at all costs, but all the way along trying to get to the aim you're completely unhappy and miserable, and you're finding things, you've got to work out what those things are. Are those things adversity that you need to struggle through to get to where you really want to be, or are those things telling you that you're actually doing the wrong thing and something else would be better for you? But then you can get really, really expansive if you want and say, is anything right or wrong for anybody? I mean, you know, because you've got to boil back down to why you believe you should be going for that, and why you believe that what you're aiming at is a good thing. Because if you've not properly examined the core belief as to why you think being in the army is a good thing, or being a chef is a good thing, or being a musician is a good thing, or a writer, or whatever it might be, you have to really find out where that core belief came from. Was it given to you? Is it inherent? Did you just see something when you were very young on the telly, then it kind of rang your bell, and you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, the other one, it's like you can't not perceive the world through stories, because that's how we interpret reality. So it's the thing I'm talking about is more kind of like, I use Peterson and Eckhart because they're two very good examples. Another one would be Byron Katie and Tony Robbins. So sort of like one is very much sort of like we're in the present moment now, there are no problems, that kind of thing, and chillax, this is your safe space, the present moment, the moment that you get lost in the imagination. You see, because it depends on the story. If it's a good story you're telling yourself, that really drives people because they've been driven towards a vision that no one else can yet see because they've conceptualized it and they know how it's going to pan out. So it's not necessarily a bad story. They might have gratitude from the past, or instead of worry, and they might have regrets, and they might not be worried. They might not be worried about the future because they've So it really depends if it's a positive or negative story that you're telling yourself. But we all have to have a story.
Yeah.
And so there's this spiritual element of how much of it. Say there's a thought, which is a story. It's how much you believe it. So you can still acknowledge that something is true without believing it as much. Because the belief, especially in something negative, that's the poison. So when you extract the belief out of a negative thought, you can still have the negative thought, but it doesn't have power over you in the same way. And so you're in control of it instead of it being in control of you. So again, you look at someone like, who's the lady that Nancy Klein, Byron Katie, or one of those ladies, whereby they're saying it's now here, that kind of thing gets you to focus on the internal game, as opposed to the Tony Robbins approach, which is external, it's in the future, everything's not good enough, we need more, that very kind of capitalistic, kind of driven, kind of carrot and stick thing. And that Peterson thing, you're not good enough, you need to tidy your room, everything's going to destroy you, so you need to stay on top of it, waking up, buckle up, So it's sort of like, which arm is better? I think they're both really good, but it's how you're... which is how much your suffering is real and what's imagined, and then B, with the imagined or real suffering, what do we do with that? And that's kind of like what all those kind of things answer to those questions. So
Okay.
like one is establishing what is real suffering. Like Eckhart says, sort of like you might have actual physical pains, but on top of that is the story of suffering.
Yeah.
And so you could eliminate that if you wanted to. But then Peterson might say, you take that and use that as motivation, as leverage to get to go see a doctor or something, like, do something about it, which is in the ideal future.
Yeah.
So what suffering's real and what's fake or imagined, and what of all that suffering, how should we best use it?
So
to ground us in the present moment or to propel us into the future.
Yeah. So speaking from personal experience, having just lost my 5-year-old daughter 4 weeks ago, there are a lot of people have a very strong story about how you might react to that, what your reaction would be, and grief, sadness, despair, disbelief, all kinds of emotions can come over you. But
it's known as the stages of grief, isn't it?
Yeah, and there are, and denial is one as well, of course, and all of those things. But I would say that through quite some years of trying to understand presence and understand all the things that I've been trying to understand to do with the mind, my neurology, my physiology, my working out what's a real thing and what's an imagined thing, that although clearly I am suffering or have suffered, it doesn't feel like suffering.
It doesn't feel like what you expected suffering to be like.
Yeah, well, that would be one way of putting it. So because I'm managing to stay present and I'm accepting a lot of things, there isn't much of the suffering that other people are experiencing from this same event. People, friends and family, and I am not experiencing, and the reason for that is that what I'm not doing is what I haven't been doing is projecting into the future, even imagining life without Olivia. I've not been doing that. I've not been imagining life as it was with Olivia. I've not been doing any of that. and that has probably saved me, if you could put a percentage on it, 80% of my suffering from that event. The event itself was something that caused, obviously, had a profound impact on me, but it did become a test of presence, a test of everything that I think I know. And I would say that on many levels, a lot of it has I don't even know if worked is the right way of describing it, has eased things, has put things into perspective, and that's not to say that at my core I am devastated in some way. But even when I say that, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's not true, but it's once you. I've had a few thoughts. One is that once you understand that when you try and make wishes, so people I've heard, I wish Olivia hadn't died. I wish this had happened. I wish that had happened. I wish. We're culturally, I guess, indoctrinated is probably the right word. We watch Disney, and wishes come true. They can do, right? In fantasy movies, but the reality is that wishes from that perspective, at the very least, they don't. So you're causing yourself suffering by wishing for something that you know you can't have. So we've changed it in our world, and Amy's been doing this, and it's definitely helped her. I really want my soul wants to have Olivia walk through that door and scream down the microphone and slap Doug's face. But like treating myself kindly, treating myself with care, not kindly, let's say with care. Like you would treat a child with care. Yeah.
Be careful, that's a better meme.
Be careful.
Yeah, that's a much better meme. Let's popularise that.
Yeah.
Much better than be kind.
Take care with
I like saying that to people, take care.
With what you do.
Yeah.
Because with what you do will have impacts on you and on other people. That's much nicer than be kind.
I think care is better than kindness.
So let's say I'm caring. So back to this, I have to separate myself out into two entities, which I am anyway. We all are. We've all got a voice in our head that chunters on about whether it fancies a can of Coke or a beer, or whether I'm going to go do this or that. And that's playing along all the time. But I have to treat, when that voice is talking, myself with care, like I'm nurturing a child, because I'm wounded like a child right now. I don't understand what it is that's happened. I can't comprehend this death. Can't comprehend it. And because I can't comprehend it, I'm just like a child that can't comprehend whatever it is, that all the things that children as they grow up and learn can't comprehend. But anyway, I want that to happen more than anything. But then I have to say to myself, with firm, loving care, that cannot happen. That will not happen. It cannot happen. And by doing that, I'm bringing a bit of reality to it. I'm bringing the truth to it, because it is the truth. Can't happen. That can never happen. And by doing it, there's an easing in being that honest with yourself, but with care, with kindness. It's like give you a hug, but it can't happen. I might cry. I might be sad when I say that to myself, because I realise that it can't happen. But then once I've been through that, my mind goes, well, okay, well at least we know where we know where we're at. Well, we know where we're at.
There's a boundary.
And what I'm not doing is as we were discussing earlier, and this is how I'm going to describe it. This is how it is for me. You can kind of expand it how you like, but for me, what I'm definitely not doing, and choosing not to do, is trying to solve what I call an unsolvable problem. In other words, when people say things with the best will and heart in the world, like time heals, or it gets better with time, or
all the cliches.
The they are cliches, but they're people floundering because they just don't know what to say, and they want to say something, and so it does come from a place of, again, care, that they want to try and help you, but they are as helpless as everybody else. They feel helpless, and so people are just going, well, I'm just grabbing at freaking anything. It's a bit like they're all kind of drowning in the water and just grabbing at anything to try and go, well, let's try and save everybody. But anyway, but again, once you accept that this is something you cannot solve, there's no answer of, oh, by the way, are you ever not going to miss Olivia? Well, of course, I'm never not going to miss Olivia. There's never going to be a day I wake up and go, oh, I wonder who Olivia was. That's never going to happen. So it's never going to be that. But if I accept that it's never going to be that, I stop torturing myself by trying to solve something that cannot be solved. And that's it. And the amount of peace that brings is, I guess, the strength everybody keeps telling me I've got. I've had no end of people go, I can't believe how you're being so strong, but it's not actually strength.
Are you reacting the way that you thought you would?
No.
So that's something you have in common with people, because because a lot of people think, if this happened to me as well, and they try and empathise, and then they hit that wall because you can't really empathise, because it's sort of like, and there's certain things that, it's like with the skydiving as well, unless you've done it, it's one of those things that you really have to experience to have it embedded in your being.
Yeah.
You can't articulate or describe the colour blue. Do you know what I mean? So I think people are aware of that they come up to a wall and they struggle to empathise or connect or know what to say or do, because they don't know how to be.
No.
They've got no course of action, but they want to show that they're being supportive.
Yeah, I think in some senses it's harder for everybody else than it is for, say, me and Amy. And the reason I would say that is because I've been thrust into this. I have no choice. I did some coaching, skydive coaching, with some guys that had been in Afghanistan, as it happens, and had their legs blown off by, I think IEDs they're called, aren't they? And they'd had been through recovery and all those other things, and got themselves fixed and got some great prosthetic legs and whatnot. And they'd come skydiving. They were paras, right? So they were pretty mentally solid. And again, when I was talking to Ryan, one of the guys, and I was jumping with him quite a bit, and we had a great time. It's just like, and he explained it very well. And this is what it is when you are thrust into something like that you can't change, like somebody dying or your legs getting blown off or whatever else it might be. He says, well, I have two choices, two very clear choices. I can either not be here, or hand in hand with not being here, just take drugs and get, take myself out of the world, escape,
yeah.
take drink.
That's how you handle the emotion of it.
I can bury myself in drugs and drink and just escape, hide, whatever. Just wait to die or whatever it might be, or kill myself even. That's an option too, right? I can do that, or I can come skydiving with you and have a great time, and you could take the piss out of my Weird Monsters Inc. run that you named it, and we can go have a beer afterwards, and I can stagger about on my awesome prosthetic legs, and we can just have a great time, But if it says what I can't do is change it. I have two choices, but I cannot change that. I cannot bring these back. So I've got to just accept that's an unsolvable problem. Can he have his legs back? Well, yes, he can have his prosthetic legs, but he can't have his legs back ever. Once he accepts that, he can move on, and that's what he did.
Again, the acceptance thing is like, because you want things to be different to how they are. So the moment that you let go of wanting things to be different to how they are, then you're not suffering.
And you're present.
Mm.
And you're present. So supposing I wanted to be 3 inches taller or have more hair, you know, or whatever. I mean, or I don't know. I mean, you have to be careful about. There are just some things I can't have, right?
Yeah.
And I might want to be cleverer, or have a better job, and I can in some respects do those things. But the point is that I can't get anywhere else until I accept exactly where I am and what things are, you know. If and the acceptance thing is also, so supposing I tell you you've got cancer, or you haven't, or you've lost your legs, and you go, no, I haven't lost them, I'm definitely, I'm in denial, I'm going to be in denial about that, and I haven't got cancer, I don't want it. And that's exactly the same as I was talking about earlier with Olivia's death. I don't want Olivia's death. I don't want that in my life. I don't want it. Definitely not. Something I don't want with all I could say. I don't want it, but I have it.
Mm.
So all I can do to move forward is move along with it, accept it, say, well, that's something I'm going to have to move along with now.
And how did you frame it earlier, like unsolvable problem kind of thing? Because that seems, and that's what you mentioned the other night as well. So what's the idea of that, and is that something that you came, like, how did that come to you? Is it something that you read in a book that you've applied?
I think
yeah. I mean, and at what point did you implement that? Because it's still quite early, and you've kind of dealt with it so well, and it's sort of like, at what point did it strike you, sort of like, oh shit, how am I going to deal with this? Or did it sort of like just come to you naturally, or sort of like, because there's people I know that have lost their own children and are still suffering years later, tremendously, and
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that you're not, but what I'm saying is that you're dealing with it in a more effective, productive manner.
So I would say I'm not suffering specifically.
Okay.
Because I accept it for what it is. I accept it.
At what point did that come in, though, mate?
Really early, because of what I knew already. So very quickly, I decided that I was going to accept it, and that. It did. It just cleared things up a bit. It's like a cleansing.
Or just deciding to accept.
Yeah, just and also that, and this is really hard to articulate, particularly because, you know, we are tired and all those other things. So I can hear Amy and Arthur chatting in the kitchen because I've got the headphones on. I'll just take those off slightly. I'm just monitoring the vocals. Just start me again because I got sidetracked.
So it was a decision to just accept it.
Yeah. So there's a decision that I made that I accept, and it kind of happened on its own almost. You know, it was like I'd become so daily into trying to be into putting myself in presence and not worrying about things, you know, and all that other stuff. That it just went in. It was almost like a logical conclusion. That wasn't to say that that it wasn't extremely and isn't. So I'm going to put it like this: I'm not suffering. I'm in pain. Right now, I'm in pain, and I was in the moment we were told. That was a lot of pain. But I think we put suffering on ourselves. Really. You can be in tremendous pain and live with it, accept it to a degree, but the suffering, I think, is caused by the denial, the fact that you're not it's a layer on top, isn't it? So we have the death. That's pretty clear. That's going to be a painful thing to have to be separated like that. But then if I deny that death, and this is the unsolvable problem element comes into it, I'm giving myself an unsolvable problem. I'm basically saying, I do not accept this. There's got to be a way to work it out. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. I don't want it. I don't want it. I wish. It's not true. It can't be true. All of those phrases are you trying to circumnavigate saying, Olivia died and she's never coming back. And I will never see her again. And I feel a lot of emotion. I'm not crying because I'm just not. It's not an effort. I'm not making an effort not to cry or to cry.
Because it's not that you don't want those things to be different. It's just that you've accepted that that's how it is.
Yeah, because it is how it is. And that acceptance immediately, I can just deal with the pain. But I can deal with it in a very caring way.
Because you're not dealing with as much as, like you say, you've got the pain, the emotional pain, and then you've got the embellishment of the story on top of that.
Yeah.
So you're just saying, let's cut that bit off and just deal with.
The
you end
real-
up dealing with less.
Lots less.
So and you're able to maintain yourself better with that because you haven't added the. I think in psychology it's called like a cognitive distortion. It's sort of like you haven't embellished the suffering.
No, yeah, exactly. So that's exactly it.
You've minimised it by accepting that you're
Well,
going to suffer.
I've not created lots of extra, which is what you do when you wish that something could be different. Because
you're comparing the two realities.
Yeah, you're saying, well, I want that. And
whereas you're just saying,
this
well, this is how it is. As opposed to, I'd like this, and this is how it is. How can we get from A to B? It's a case of, there is no B, we've got A.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So what do you want to do with that?
So what do I do with that? That's what I've got.
Yeah.
I've got some...
Oh, but B. Yeah, but...
No. Yeah. Anyway, B. And of course, there are infinite what-ifs. And there are a lot of what-ifs in this particular situation. I could, there are what-ifs. But even so, well, they're not going to help me now. I mean, there are points at which, for different reasons, that you can go down those roads, but they have to be for constructive reasons, and they have to have a purpose. And if they do, then that makes sense, as to say, well, it's like, well, why did somebody die? Should they have died? All those kinds of things. But that's a different thing, and we'll talk. That's for another time. What we're talking about now is, if I accept that Olivia is dead, and that I will never see her again, and that there's absolutely nothing I can do about that, then I have by doing that, I'm taking away the unsolvable problem that I give myself if I don't accept it, because then if I don't accept it, my mind is on its little journey, imagining how it might be able to make something different, and then what if I do for the future? What if this had happened in the past? And it goes down all those roads, and as we all know, that's just going to be an endless spiral of, because you are always going to get back to the same place, which is, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work, because it never will, because there's only one truth in this, and that is that she is dead and she is never coming back.
And how much of it do you think is like you're able to do this because of the factors, in the sense that, like, if you were going about your daily business and it was a shock of, like, if it was a car crash or something else, or so, and it was news, it was like unanticipated news, like the shock of finding out that something's happened to somebody, as opposed to if they're going in for a major operation and the risks are explained to you, and like you say, there's a kind of like, you can prepare yourself early. You haven't got that shock factor, even though it doesn't detract from the actual.
So this was a shock factor.
And sorry, and the other point I want to make before I forget, and then at least we've got it recorded, is that there's the shock factor of, like, the circumstances, and then there's the other aspect of you as an individual and your personality, because, like, you do jump out of planes and stuff, a lot of stuff that people wouldn't ordinarily do, and sort of like, and you seem to be able to deal with things better when the shit hits the fan, as opposed to when nothing's happening and you're like anticipating what
thinking
could
too
happen.
much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas when the shit hits that, and I found that in myself, and I think that's a character trait that we both have, is that there's a high degree of neuroticism, and sort of like, if you invest too much in the imagination of things that aren't true and things aren't happening, you can wobble all over the place. But the moment something happens, you go focused. Well, boom, boom, boom. Well, this can. It almost sets boundaries in a way, because it says, well, this can't happen anyway. So it helps you get your thinking more decisive, and this is the course of action. Whereas when you've got potentially anything could happen, you're like, what is going to happen? Whereas when it's restricted and says reality says yeah, like computer says no, reality says yeah, and you're like, oh shit, well that's all out the window.
Yeah, boom,
because
boom,
that's
boom,
that's
boom.
the only thing that's left.
Yeah.
So it's a clear path.
Yeah.
So how much of it do you think is the way that you're dealing with this so well is the sense that one is that with the shock factor of the sort of like anticipating that something may happen, and also your natural proclivity and your personality, because it's sort of like it would be nice if we could take what you've got and to be able to install that into other people that are really suffering, and how could we help get that kind of like model that sort of like perspective and help other people that might be going through something similar.
So obviously I have been thinking about how to be, better ways of being, if you like. That's what this is all about in the end. And I've read, not all of this stuff actually, but most of it, or I've dipped in and out of all of it, but I've certainly taken something out of a lot of it. And that's just books and ideas and whatever. But really, I think that nature to want to find those things is helpful, because it's an exploratory nature that is happy to accept that things might be different from my... So I've definitely come to a place where I'm constantly deconstructing my beliefs. Why do I believe that? Well, because we've always believed that. Well, why have we always believed that? Well, because my granddad told me. Well, okay, well, where did you get that from?
Yeah, why and where? Yeah.
Why and where? Where? Come on then. Is it functionally actually practical to have that belief? Is that belief really, what is it? Is it useful? Is it a useful belief? And this is almost like down to the Donald Hoffman, I guess. I'm not sure because I've not read enough of it, but I know you've read more than I have. But you talk about the fitness functions. Well, is that belief useful to me? Is it helpful to me, or is it hindering me? In fact, am I actually hindering myself through these beliefs that I've never even questioned where they came from? Or why I have them? But they're just inherent in me because of upbringing. But that's nurture. They're inherent in the nurture, or are they inherent in nature? But I think beliefs, particularly things like religions and beliefs in life after death or not, or all those kinds of beliefs, that they're kind of nurtured into us through like osmosis, in a sense, of the world we grow up in. Whether it be the kind of films we watch, or the kind of things our parents do, and all of those kinds of things, if that makes sense. So I think if you're questioning those beliefs, and it's not to say that you're saying they're wrong or right, you just got to question them. You've got to dig into them and go, well, what is this belief? What does it mean? Why do I have it? Is it useful to me? Should I keep it? That's how I look at it. That's I don't know where that's just me. Belief. Is it valid? Is it useful? Is it hindering me? Shall I keep it? Shall I change it? So, shall we replace it with one that's actually more useful?
But you see, that's very much like Jordan Peterson maps of meaning. That's what I'm saying, where you're dealing with stuff in the material world and where you're at and where you'd like to be. Whereas the Eckhart stuff is more a case of don't worry about the meaning. It's sort of like just notice the fact that you're the observer of the story. So like one is story based and the other is observer of a story.
Yeah, but you are an observer of a story,
yes.
So you have both.
Yes,
you have to have both. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's sort of like we've kind of established that there's a story of who you are and you're acting out in the world, or who you believe that you are, and how you're acting out in the world. And then there's the observer of that, which is the kind of big brother, kind of like looking down, like third perspective, kind of breaking the fourth wall or whatever it's called, sort of like an observer mode.
Yeah.
That's who we truly are. And despite all the changes in our stories and characters and circumstances. So I think the thing that I'm interested in is sort of like, how do we gauge that? How do we know when? Because we're slipping in and out of the two worlds all the time, between observer and believing the story or the thought to being the observer. And the observer is kind of wisdom in a way, because it's something that we all have. It's something that is the common denominator between all human beings, is that we all know that we're having an experience. Even science goes out of its way to disprove itself. We find out things that are true that aren't. Things happen, we react to them. And it's sort of like, whereas there's a non-judgmental thing in it being the observer, and it doesn't require language even. In fact, language, you realise, gets in the way of being able to just have the capacity to observe, which is what we were saying earlier. It's like, once you get it, you don't need the words just get in the way.
I agree. Yeah, and I think even Eckhart would say this, that there's a balance between the story and the observer, and you need them both. Or currently, we need them both. You know, we may evolve to a place and time when we don't need them both, because we don't get to be trapped in this thing. And I need to really think about. I'm not going to be able to articulate very easily now why I think the two sit side by side, but they do, for me, because I think what Eckhart would say and does say is that the everyday life, the real world, obviously. Existent. I know the real world. Well, what is the real world? But let's not get into that. Let's say that me having to get up in the morning, have a wash, have some food, put some clothes on, go earn some money so I can carry on doing those things, sit in a place that's, you know, dry and warm of some description.
Have a
conversation with a handsome magician, yeah, who's also a great dancer and
great ball handling skills.
Yeah,
juggling.
Moderately funny at times, and good with kids, apparently. You are. I was quite happy to have Uncle Doug babysit, and he did all kinds of. I get all kinds of pictures with him. Dinosaur in the living room. Yeah. So, but yeah, So that's, I think that's where Jordan is mostly existing. Jordan is saying, how can you make the best job of that story that you've kind of got to have? And I think that's what he's kind of saying. I think he's saying, okay, you've got this story, and we can argue endlessly about whether the story is necessary or real and all those other things.
And the hero story, he promotes that a lot, doesn't he? The hero's journey.
Yeah, and what he is trying to say is that, you know, it's like the do something that's meaningful, not expedient. You know, and he kind of does bring it into spirituality, saying if you want to succeed in your life and feel like there's a purpose and there's something going, then try and do something that's meaningful. And the world has just collapsed because it's ludicrously expedient. You know, the almost everything about everything that we're told, we're promoted, and by the nature of the people that tend to promote them, obviously. It's all about expedience. It's all about buy this, have this, you'll be better if, you know, drink this, eat that, wear this, and your life will be great. But all they're really doing is trying to cut. They're doing what you do as a magician. They're selling me something that's not true.
Well, if you can create confusion and then you show leadership, then people are like, I don't know what's going on, I'll follow you.
Yeah, well, that's and there's that, and then there's also the idea that if I you know, oh, this is great, look at this, and you do a magic trick, and then you say, oh wow, Jesus.
It's a reaction.
And you want one, and they go, but what they don't know is how ridiculously simple what just happened.
It's how they're directing attention, misdirection. It's how you're directing attention.
Yeah, but the main point of it is that then they go, oh, I've got to have that.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as magic in the conventional, in the Harry Potter way, you know, where there's a wand and there's a blast of light comes out of it and we say a magic word and you turn into a frog. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as magic, in my opinion. I'm sure there are lots of people that maybe believe there is, but I'm going to say, put my stake in there's no magic in that sense, at least. But that's why
I like the hard problem of consciousness, because that is kind of magic. It's kind of like, that's why people have trouble pinning it down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm fascinated by it, I think, because it's still that bit of mystery that's still left, because we know a lot about the material world, and consciousness kind of points to something that is not of the material world.
And I think this is why consciousness gets called, on some levels, God, or
a collection of consciousness.
Yeah. What? Because there is still that mystery to it. There is still, you know, no scientist can tell you anything about where consciousness comes from, where it exists, what it is. You know, so they can tell you about where you think in your brain and where the primal part of your brain is and where the amygdala is and where all these different parts of your brain are and what they do. But you still have no idea where consciousness resides within that and how it even happens. So there's something still controlling all those different parts of your brain. There's still something completely invisible to us doing it. Yeah.
Well, again, once you get into Hoffman and all that kind of stuff, it gets even worse than that.
So, well, that's another time.
Yeah, we're drifting off.
We can't. But what we're trying to say is that, and maybe we can turn this into something that's useful for everybody.
This is what I want to do. I want to kind of extrapolate or extract or whatever word you want to use to sort of like. Can other people that have lost somebody, because there's going to be a lot of people lose somebody in this bit that we've got coming up now. How could they emulate or replicate or sort of like your way of being or model of behaviour that you're using to cope with the pain that you're experiencing with eliminating as much suffering as you can? Because that would be helpful.
It would.
How are you doing it?
So I think how I'm doing it, I think personality is part of it.
Right.
I think nature is part of it. Obviously, as you've said,
circumstances as well.
And circumstances as well. And I think it's very complicated, and I think there are a lot of possible variations. I am the kind of person where my nature is that when the first time I jumped out of a plane, I was terrified. Jesus. It's pretty fripping scary, especially if you've got a parachute on your back and there's nobody else strapped to you, and you've got to basically.
Like driving a car for the first time, but out the sky.
Yeah. Okay, but nevertheless, you've spent time thinking about it. You've been taken through all the options, and you at some point you've just got to jump. You've just got to jump out.
With your life.
It's a gamble, but it's one that it's an educated risk.
It's a gamble when you drive down the road at 70 miles an hour. So
yeah. And so you go, well, I'm with two people that really know what they're doing. They're going to look after me. I accept that. I know the skill level of these people. I know that they just would not be doing this if they weren't, because I know since then I have seen the kind of tests they put these people through. I mean, you would not believe how hard it is to become an instructor. A coach is different, an instructor. They just put you through everything. It's like joining the SAS. More or less, it's very difficult, and your stress test is that you can only really get it wrong once. You get one. No. When you do the course, one mistake and you're out. Yeah. Everything has to be right all the time. There's not. You don't get.
It's not 99%.
No. So basically, it's within. I think there is a slight tolerance depending on certain factors, but the bottom line is, if you make a fundamental error once, the first time you make it, you're out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't. You come back on another course. That means a year later you go practice again, and a year later you come back, because next time you jump out of the plane with Doug on my front, who's knows nothing about skydiving, I have to get it right every time. I cannot get it wrong. Okay, because your life is in my hands, literally. Okay, so anyway, that we digress. I think personality comes into it to a degree, but I have certainly been telling things to Amy, who's a very different person to me and doesn't really spend a lot of time thinking about all the things that we think about in psychology and stuff. And I think the things that were really helpful is I think the first most helpful thing is definitely, as best you can, telling yourself that this is real and that it has happened, and you do that in a very caring, loving way, if you like, to yourself. But to yourself, you have to have that conversation with yourself. This really has happened.
So you don't spend so much time in denial.
Don't spend as little time in denial as possible, because denial is you. But here's where that gets more interesting. What I'm not saying is that means you just. That's it. Done it. Ignore it. Well, that's okay. Well, it's happened. So, right. What's for tea? It's not that. It's not. It's first accept it, but then it's how you care for yourself in the process of that. and you have to realize that there's two yous. There's you that there's the observer, and then there's the you that's the frightened child going, what the fuck? I mean, sorry, I'm gonna try not to swear. I'm trying. What just happened?
Bollocks to that.
What? So your mind goes, how just happened, right? What's just bloody happened, man? I've got to do it by Jordan Peterson. But there's that part of you that is confused. It doesn't know. It's going, oh my God, what? And that's kind of, in a sense, that's your primal fight-flight instinct. That's going, this does not compute. Right, okay, boom. Oh God, what? So...
Yeah, it's like the orientation reflex. You sort of like become what we got to do now. What's the course of action now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's so. Then you. But if you treat yourself with care and as Jordan would say, like somebody you're caring for, and that's what you're doing. You sit yourself down, kind of in your own head, and say, look, this like the doctor has just done to you to tell you that your daughter's is died or is dying in our case. That the best way to deal with this is to first accept it. Now people get confused with acceptance. They think it means that means you're okay with it, but acceptance isn't saying you're okay with it.
You're just acknowledging the reality of it.
You're just saying it's happened.
You're not in denial. It's sort of like you're not creating.
Yeah,
because people do go crazy. They go like sort of like they
drive themselves insane.
Yeah.
But they are driving themselves insane. By so let's
can't accept the current reality. It's just about accepting the reality of it. That's what...
Accepting the reality doesn't mean that it means that you accept what has happened. It doesn't mean that you're okay with it. I am not okay with Olivia's death on any level, but I wouldn't choose it for anything, but I accept it, and the acceptance immediately removes that layer of pain that's caused by not accepting it, which is the unsolvable problem, which is I'm trying to make this fit some way that makes it work and come back round the way I want it, and which of course it never will, because when somebody dies, they die, right? That's the end of it. So so by removing that torture, that insane torture, it's the insanity thing. It's doing it over and over again. If I just keep thinking about this long enough, I'll fix it. You'll never fix that. It's unsolvable. So stop trying. And if you stop trying, guess what? Instantly, you can just focus on the pain that you've got, the real pain, the pain of the loss, the pain of not seeing them again, and all those other things. They're all real. They're all fine. They're all okay. But you can just deal with those, not if only this had happened, if only that had happened, which is infinite. Or what, I wish she could just come, or I wish this, or I wish that, and well, you're going to suffer. That's why you suffer. And the key is just, it is as simple as accepting that it's real, and it's happened, and it's true. It's true. That's it. Then the pain bit, I can deal with that in the same way that I have to deal with it. And so what I do for Arthur, my son, I do for myself. I just give him a hug every
night. You parent yourself, yeah.
You parent yourself. You look after yourself. You say, look, I know you're hurting, and you give him a hug, and then say very little else really, and then that's it. And the other thing that was just to say, the other thing that was really useful, has been really useful, and Amy has found extremely useful, and again, I'm sure this has come from a mackling together of things that I've read and have learned, but this very, very fundamental thing is the thing that you say, instead of I wish, you can want it as much as you like, but you have to then say, you can say whatever you want. I want Olivia to walk through the door right now and give me a big squeeze and a big kiss and tell you I love you, Daddy. That'd be really nice. That'd be lovely. And I'm feeling quite sad. I've got my tears because I'm thinking, but I'm immediately becoming sad because I'm imagining something that's not real, that's not true, and that's making me sad. And that's okay, because the sadness is important. I need it. But then I have to sit myself down and go, as lovely as that might be, as much as I might want it, I can't have it. It will not happen. And that's like a parent being firm. I've got to be firm with myself, but in a caring way. So you sit yourself down and go, I know you really want this, but it can't happen. So with care, but firmly with care, you can't have it. It's not going to happen. It's not saying, oh, get over it, don't be an idiot, you can't have it. It's not that. It's we all want that more than anything. We really want that, but it can't happen. And it's like there's this that firm caring. It takes you back to the fact that you're accepting that it's actually not possible.
How much of it, you know, when they say things like time heals and that kind of stuff, how much of it do you think is just the body being intelligent in the sense that sort of like, because you said you've looked at this so much and you've developed some sort of a strategy to deal with it, and other people may not have done. So how much of it do you think that there is over time, you keep doing it and you keep coming up against a brick wall, and so then your body will just be like, ugh, and then it'd sink that level, whereas you've kind of realised, you've had the foresight to realise that if I keep doing this, it's not going to go anywhere productive or positive, and that this is the better course of action because this is where I'm going to end up anyway. So you sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for when you perceive something coming, you've foreseen, oh, this is where that takes me to, that's the path that leads to, and this is the journey, and it's not a nice journey, so I'd rather go with what is and stick on that, and sort of like, so the time healing thing might be a case of, you just, like Groundhog Day, you just keep failing until you get it right, until reality teaches you that this is what is, whereas you're kind of saying if you accept that quite early on, you don't have to keep hitting your head against the wall and suffering unnecessarily.
Yeah, I think, so what came to me then was, you know when you see, and they'll be doing it now, say with the virus thing, so you got this virus thing, and they'll be running simulations.
Yeah, simulation is a good way of putting it.
So what will be happening is, there'll be, and they'll have to run, I imagine, millions, if not hundreds of millions of simulations, but they'll do it at lightning speed because they've got all the computers and things. So they'll be running simulations. Let's say they're running simulations not about, say, fixing the virus, but how it might spread. If one person is, then blah, blah, blah. And there'll be all kinds of people running these simulations,
making predictions,
looking for outcomes, and that's what you're doing. But with this, it's kind of slightly, I guess, kind of an easy simulation really, because you can know from the outset that it doesn't matter how many times you run the simulation, you're always going to get the same answer. And some problems, you can know that. That's why it's an unsolvable problem, because you can know absolutely that there's no other answer. And I know that in this case, and people are like, oh, there's always a... Well, no. If the question I have is, or if what I'm after is that Olivia isn't dead and she's still here with me, there's only one possible answer to that, and it's that it will never happen. There's just no way under our current levels of technology, and certainly for many, many hundreds of years, that you can bring somebody back from the dead. Can't happen. So people suffer when people die because they can't accept it, or they don't want. I think probably not so much they can't accept it. I think most people who are rational can accept that somebody's died. They just don't want to accept it.
Well, it's the emotion in it. It's like we were talking about the other night. It's like the rationality of it, like being all Vulcan and like logic about it. It's sort of like, yeah, I get it, but I'm still upset. I'm still sad. And
yeah,
like,
and
it's
that's
the emotional. How do you deal with the emotional turmoil?
So, but
it comes in waves as well.
Yeah, and you can be so there's what I found.
Riding the waves.
What I found. So yesterday at the funeral, you know, there was I had parts where I was trying to do my speech, and there was two or three bits where I couldn't really say what I couldn't get it out. You know, I just couldn't say it. It was just overwhelmingly emotional. But they're the real moments of pain, the real moments of realization, and you can use those to know that it's true. Because those moments are the ones that go where it hits you like a train, and you go, oh, this is true, and you really know it. And then you can sit with that, and that's when you can really accept it, when you get those moments of real pain and real suffering, because that's when you know it's true and it's real. because they are really strong. Whereas when I talked about Olivia coming to the room, I started to feel quite upset, like I might cry, and I could feel my face going. I could feel myself starting to feel like I wanted to cry, but I invented that. That was because I chose to think about this, that, and the other, and at the funeral, there's just moments where it just comes out of nowhere, and it's real because there's like this realization. But that's when Eckhart will say, out of extreme suffering, you can find real comfort, and that's what it is, because the extreme suffering is the thing that makes you really realize and understand that it's real. If that makes sense, it's hard to explain, but that's why extreme suffering brings about such.
Also, because there might be guilt. Because like when you look at other people that might have lost someone, especially like if the children, it doesn't have to be children, but anyone really relative is older, if they've had an argument recently, and there's like unresolved issues, and they pass away. You've got the shock. You've got the I don't know how to deal with this. You've got then you've got the guilt associated with, oh shit, I wish I can't apologise to the person, and you've got that kind of like, it's an open loop. It's not completed. Whereas if you know that you love someone and you express that and they knew that feels more complete.
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. Tired.
How many hours sleep have you had?
I'm not sure. It's not even that. I think there's an exhaustion thing going on as well. That this doesn't matter how many hours.
You've got plenty of weeks to have a relax now.
sleep. It's fairly
quarantine. It's
fairly exhausting doing all that. Where were we? Sorry.
Yeah, sort of like having an open loop whereby if you
same thing, right? It's the
how
same
can you
thing.
forgive yourself? Because a lot of people just feel guilt.
Well,
oh, we had an argument the last time we saw each other, blah blah blah. But with you, it's sort of like, or in other relationships whereby, I love them, they knew that, and there was love there, and it was all complete, and it's sort of like they knew that. Do you know what I mean? And you know that, and it's peace of mind moving forward. Whereas some people might not have that. So it's like, again, each circumstance is different, but it's sort of like, how can we help people to sort of like...
I think the same thing is true. You have to just accept what is. You have to accept it as it is.
You're full on the old acceptance thing, aren't you?
But it's the key.
Yeah.
It is. Because it gives you a place to start that's a solid... So Eckhart was talking... I watched one of Eckhart's... his thing he did a couple of days ago, talking about the pandemic issue. And he used the parable from the Bible about the house built on sand and a house built on stone, and that the house is you as your body, and that and I think that acceptance is the bedrock of starting to build something that makes sense, because it is.
Because you're working with reality instead of fighting it.
So if you build, and it's a brilliant parable, because if you think about it, if you build everything off what you think might be true, or you would like to be true, or even worse, isn't true, but you're just going to wish it and hope that it comes out all right, which is kind of how most people pretty much exist right now. They go, oh, I really want that, so I'll just keep doing it, I'll be fine, and that's great, and they're not looking at any of the reality of anything, like they just...
Because they're so fixated on where
they're just fixated on what they want.
And the means to get there,
and
the cost of it,
and where I'm going to get, whereas if you build it on reality, so usually really successful people, whether they be successful because they've built successful businesses, or they've just been successful as athletes, or it's all built from a really solid foundation. It's all built from work from the beginning to the end and it's based in reality, the truth. What is the best way I can do this? Let's find out what that actually is. And it might not be the way you want, but you do what the best way is. And if you do things on that basis, you're going to do all right, generally speaking, because things will work. I don't know. I mean, there must be loads of examples of that, but there's so many examples of that. It's infinite, right? You can't make I don't know. I want to make a cup of tea, but I want to use coffee beans. Well, okay. Good luck. You know.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer used to have a thing like that. I used the other day actually when I was chatting to someone. I said, "Oh, well, they're not like this." I go, "Well, you wouldn't expect it." I think he said it was an orange. You wouldn't expect what happens when you squeeze an orange. What comes out? Orange juice.
Orange
Does
juice.
that apple juice ever come out at all?
No.
Or did pineapple juice occasionally? What comes out is what's inside. And so when you squeeze something, you apply pressure. What comes out is what's inside. So if you squeeze something and what comes out of you is resentment and this, that was inside of you, and it's sort of like, and if you squeeze with if you put pressure and expecting things to be different to what they are, it's like arguing. Oh well, this orange doesn't have grapefruit juice in it. It's not.
Well, I wanted to have grapefruit juice in it.
It's not how I want it to be.
No, I want it to be that. That's useless then, isn't it? It's useless. Well,
and then I'll be posting all day about oranges and how much I can't get on with them because they just don't have pineapple juice coming out of them or whatever juice. Anything other than orange juice, because that's what comes out of an orange.
Yeah, and that's it. And there you go. I mean, so what acceptance provides you with is...
I started to make me feel sad, didn't I? It's really because it's wanting it to be different to how it is.
Yeah, and that's where you create all the suffering. Pain is one thing, suffering is something quite different. Because suffering to me implies unnecessary. It's like you suffer. Now that's not always true. So you could be suffering because you're poorly because you've got COVID-19 as an example. You know, you could be suffering because there are different kinds of suffering. So there's suffering as in suffering because you're ill. Although arguably mental suffering is also a similar kind of illness.
I think you are actually right. I think there's pain and there's suffering. It's a very simplistic, easy way of
I
understanding
mean, even I guess that even actually,
because one's real and one isn't.
So here's the thing as well. Now I'm saying that and I'm thinking it through properly. When you're in hospital, lots of people can be in quite a lot of pain, extreme pain, and not suffer.
Yes,
they're not suffering because, and guess why?
Come on, Paul, you're going to tell me.
Shall I hit you with it?
Well, as long as it doesn't cause me suffering.
because they accept the pain.
Yes, that's
they accept they've got pain. And let's supposing there's a test that's done. You can do it, and it's actually a test for intelligence, in fact, and it's a really common test that can be done with all kinds of people. But basically, you get a bowl or a steel thing that cools water down to a temperature that's painful. It's cold for your hand to be in, but you're told that no physical damage will occur to your hand whatsoever at any
so
point.
You relax into it, yeah.
Right, so you're told this will be really quite painful. It's very, very cold. It's cold to the point where it's actually going to cause you quite a lot of pain, but no tissue damage, no damage will. It's not a temperature at which they will cause any damage to your skin or anything about your body. It will just be painful. And then what they do is they say, put your hand in, see how long you can do it. Now, the reason this is an intelligence test is because if you've listened carefully, well, you know that there's no damage. So all I have to do is...
you're telling yourself that story at least, because it
might
not be true.
Yeah, but you have to suppose that it's true because it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so...
But that's where the placebo comes in.
Well, yeah, but that's not really the point of this what we're talking about here. You kind of taking it too far away from what the point is. So let's just suppose that it absolutely is true, but there's no need to believe the story. It's just a science experiment, and it's true that there will be no damage. We know that, just like we know that, I don't know, whatever. But the test is, you put your hand in, and how long you keep it in is like your intelligence meter's going like this. This is 0. So the intelligence meter starts, you put your hand in, oh fuck, it's cold. Or you put your hand and go, oh yeah, Jesus, that really hurts. Oh man, yeah, but I know it can't do me any harm, so I'm good. But it's very painful, but that's okay. Because you're rationalising. You're going, I know it won't do me any damage. We're all good.
Believe that it won't.
Well, all right, but I get, okay, somebody could lie to it, but yes, I know that you believe that it won't. But yes, you believe that it won't because you know that it won't. Because it won't. But we're just assuming that the person doing the experiment is telling you the truth. You have to assume that because that's the point of this isn't whether somebody's lying to you or not. The point of this is the fact that you...
Well, whether it's true or not, you're still believing that it is. So if they're lying to you and it does fuck up your hand, but you'd probably still keep it in there. Because you don't believe that it would. Because these sensations that I can't actually feel my hand anymore. That's okay because it's part of it. So it doesn't matter if they're lying to you or not. You're still gonna. That's what you're saying. Because we're all acting in accordance to our beliefs.
Yeah, I mean you've taken it a long way from where the point I was trying to make. In reality, it's very simply intelligence is that if you know something to be true. What I'm really saying is, let's suppose you metaphor the cold water with a death. So the cold water is you're told there's a death. Same thing, right? Well, I'm just trying to explain that.
I'm just trying to understand the original point you was trying to make. If I didn't understand.
Well, because you've contorted it unnecessarily.
Okay, so re-explain it to me. What did I miss? Or what did I?
Well, you were trying to say, well, they might have lied to you about whether the water was cold or not, or they might have done this, and you believe the story, right?
So it's true, and they put their hand in. So what's the point you're trying to make?
The point is that by accepting that I know that it's not going to do me any harm, I can leave my hand in for as long as I want, because I'm accepting the pain, because I know the pain's not going to do me any harm. Yeah, that's what it's about, and that's the same as Olivia dies. Well, I accept that she's died. I know there's pain comes along with it, but I know there's nothing I can do about it. So it's the same level of acceptance. It's the same kind of thing. It has a slightly different connotation to it, but it's the same basic principle that I can live with the pain if I accept
it will be painful.
That it will be painful, but that's actually okay.
Yeah.
Because I have no choice. I mean, obviously with the hand thing. I mean, again, you got to be a little bit careful not to kind of overthink, and that's what happened there a bit. It's a really simple experiment. We have to assume that the water's not going to do any damage, and that's just a true thing. Like water boils at what temperature and things that we know that we accept as true. The main point of what I was trying to say is that people that suffer are the people that can't accept it. People that don't suffer are the people that accept it, that go, logically, I understand that this is not going to do me. The science is that it will not do me any harm. That's science. That's just like absolute science. It will not do me any harm. It's extremely painful, but I can accept that, and they don't suffer. I mean, I guess you could do it in a different way. What you could do is you could strap their hand in, right?
No, but it's voluntarily acceptance, and it's...
And it changes with the level of whether it's pain or suffering.
Yeah, it's non-resistance to
what
the
is
circumstances of what is.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to illustrate.
Here's an easy way of putting, like when you have a cold shower. If I stand in a cold shower and I go, oh it's cold, I don't want it to go. Whereas if I go, and just feel the coldness, I'm cool.
I do relax. I do that every morning.
Yeah, and you know what I mean then? There's two states you can be in a cold shower. You can be one in resistance where I'm going to go shaking and shivering more, or you can just accept the cold and just breathe more. Yeah, it's good for your cortisol levels. It's good for you. The whole experience, even though it's the same experience, feels completely different based on whether you're accepting it or not.
Yeah, so what I do is every morning, well pretty much every morning, occasionally I won't, but that tells me a lot about my mental state at the time.
Okay, so that's like a test almost. Like an indicator.
Pretty much 90% of the time I'll go in. But what I do is I have my normal shower and it's warm and it's lovely and everything. Then I put it onto cold and I go to myself, I know that I kind of don't really want to go under there, but it's going to do me some good. It's going to raise my cortisol levels. It'll make me feel great. All the breathing thing it does for you.
Yes, you're very focused.
It's really
present, mind you.
It's great, yeah. and you get under, and guess what?
About much else.
So you get under, and it's you beauty, you're like, no, it's okay, it's good. And then about like 30 seconds to a minute. I wouldn't do it for much longer than a minute probably. I should probably try and get a bit longer, but do a Wim Hof on everybody. Wim Hof. It is Wim Hof, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah. But you come out of that suffering. Sorry. Yeah. So no. You're not. It's not suffering. No, and that's the point. No, it's suffering if I go, oh God, I can't stand it. Oh God, I don't want to be here. But what I do is I come out and guess what?
I feel powerful.
Guess what happens when you come out from it? You warm. You start warming up because suddenly this temperature around you is relatively is completely different. So your experience of the world that you were in a minute ago is completely different, and you warm from it. It's like, whoa, I'm really warm now. Because relatively, we're in a good place. So, but
the best way you can get into the present moment is having a cold shower, I think.
Yeah, or jump out of a plane. That helps. Honestly, it does. It really focuses your
Cold
mind.
shower's less dangerous and it's more convenient.
Yeah, on a daily basis. Although Langer's just down the road, so if you really want to,
It's cheaper as well, isn't it?
probably.
So it's all like, so just having a cold shower could be
Yeah,
a good way of getting into the present moment and practicing non-resistance.
not resisting to it because it's not going to do you any harm.
Yeah.
Any cold water that comes out of your shower is going to do you no harm.
And making the decision, again, this is where Peterson comes in, to confront something that you feel like you can't confront.
You don't
Makes
want
you
to.
realise that you're stronger than what you believe you are.
Yeah, and I use it as a little test every morning to go. This is, and I kind of say to myself, this is how I'm going to approach the rest of the day.
Mm.
This is what I'm going to do. The rest of the day, I'm going to keep getting under cold showers. Metaphorically speaking. And
do you find the more you relax, the better that you enjoy the shower, or not?
Yeah.
Because that's what I find.
and the more you relax, the better you enjoy life.
Yeah.
And that's where the presence thing comes. So you know, Eckhart will say you can be in presence for just a little bit there, and then just nip back in, and I need to use my mind to pay a bill, or I need to use my mind to. So you start using your mind, unlike whereas most people's minds use them.
Yeah. The idea grabs hold of them. They don't have ideas.
They think that it's their idea, and they think that they're being proactive by following it. But if you are not
It's the
conscious,
same with emotions as well. It's sort of like, again, all overthinking. It's sort of like, do the thoughts have you, or do you have the thoughts? And the same with emotion. It's sort of like, can you sit with it?
explain. Sorry.
So sort of like, if you, like, say for example, stage fright's a good one. So you're going to go on stage, oh, getting nervous, sweaty, all that kind of stuff. I'm anxious, or is it excitement? What's the feeling? And you pay, again, like with a cold shower, you pay attention to the feeling, and that paying attention to the feeling realizes that you're having a feeling instead of the feelings having you. In the same way with the thinking.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't
You're
know.
not overwhelmed by it. You're sort of managing it, as opposed to not being able to being overwhelmed by it and it possessing you.
Yeah, which
much.
which can happen. Road rage is a
That's an
classic
exact
example.
perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have road rage, and you go like that, it's sort of like you're now possessed by another creature,
So
and it's not who you are, and you've gone temporarily insane. You've literally
Yeah.
gone temporarily. You've shut down your brain, or your blood's going to your heart. So you're shutting parts of the brain that would make sense. So again, the family fortune using hedgehog, sort of like it shuts down so that you just have these options. But if you can breathe, put the blood circulation back, and you can look after the emotion instead of it literally possessing you.
well, I mean, so that the process.
Just by becoming aware of it.
Yeah, neurologically and physiologically, the process of say road rage is a combination of the emotions and stress hormones and all those other things, and the fight and flight part of your brain taking over.
Yeah.
So your amygdala taking over.
But if you catch yourself doing that, you go, oh, I'm in control, so I'm not going to go kill this guy.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to just
I think,
and be sort of like a dog, sort of like on a leash, as
Yeah.
opposed to a serial killer.
and we've all, and I'm yeah, and
I don't get road rage, so I'm quite lucky. So.
I can do a little bit. I'll be honest with you.
I know.
If I'm very tired and very annoyed, but because I'm not saying, by the way, that you know, I don't have any of that, because I do, but probably a lot less than I have had, which is where this journey started in many ways. What was I going to say? I was going to say something.
So
I was going to say
controlling it,
something. Yeah, so about controlling it. So it's
as opposed to controlling you.
as far as I'm aware, the speed at which that those parts of your brain and that those neurons fire, and that the physio. So the neurons fire with an idea. The idea that the neurons go. Usually there's something, I think it's called Hebb's law. It's something like that. I don't know. I'm not a neurologist, but I know enough little bits about the bits I need to know. But basically, neurons wire and fire together. So groups of neurons basically get used to repetitive actions, which is how you basically learn to play a saxophone or do a magic trick, because all the neurons require to go, oh, when we do the magic trick, we all do this. So every time you start to think about the magic trick, they go, oh, no, don't worry, I know this one. Boom, 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 boom. Off they go, because they go, we know this one. If we all fire together, we'll nail it for Doug. You know, we've got it. So, but and the problem with that is that when it's a magic trick, that's great, because then you can kind of do it without thinking about it. It seems like you're not thinking about it because you're just doing it, right? But where that goes wrong is if you have a very bad experience, the same pattern occurs. So the neurons wire and fire. Then you think, and then what happens? You think about the bad experience, and the neurons wire and fire because they go, "Oh, we know this one." But then what happens is before at a speed that's far beyond your thinking brain going, "Don't think about." Oh, it's too late. Boom! The neurons are fired. They've gone down here into your. They're creating a physiological response. Now we're into fight and flight already. And then that physiological chemistry starts pumping back up to your adrenaline, whatever it might be, right? The cortisol, dopamine, those kinds of things. And again, I'm not a doctor, but those are I think the three main drugs that you're likely to get under those circumstances. Anyway, somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But boom, straight back up. They're now washing those neurons. Neurons are going, yeah, man, getting high on it all, and as I say, in a speed that's, and you'll see this in the chimp paradox, in a speed way, way, way faster than you can stop it, you're done. You're in.
I disagree.
Right, but what you can do is, it's almost like, don't go down that road in the first place.
I think you can stop it.
Well, yeah.
I think consciousness is faster.
Possibly.
Which is why you can catch that space in between doing it and just widen it. That's why people stop themselves, because they go, oh, and they realise.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing, to be fair, is a very complicated and long-winded discussion, and probably not even for now. But yes, possibly consciousness can stop it. I would say, yeah, I guess that's scientifically. I think it's kind of Ricky would say, for instance, you can't. That said,
so you're not in control of your own behaviour.
Not when once that's happened.
There's no way you can get in control of your own behaviour.
Once you set off down that road, it's very difficult to stop it. Because but it depends how far, and I think this is the point I was about to make, is what you can do is definitely mitigate against it much better than so you can not have the thoughts that trigger those neurons in the first place. So, or you can change the meaning of those thoughts so that those neurons, what you kind of have to do, if you say have a propensity to road rage and aggression, you have to reroute and rewire those neurons, and some clinical psychologists would say find out why they even occur in the first place, and then kind of get to that, which is what you were saying earlier, and I kind of agree with. Sometimes I think digging around in the past, and this is ad libitum.
It's just because we're human.
And we are trying to defend ourselves against lions in our heads, kind of thing. You know, somebody's just attacked you by doing that.
There's a reason those emotions are there.
Yeah, but unfortunately, in shiny metal boxes under those circumstances, that's a misread thing. There is no actual danger if you just slow down and pull over it and let the idiot just drive on. That's what you kind of need to do, because they're not fighting you, but because everybody's fighting. It's like that becomes infectious.
It's conflict and resistance.
Yeah. So it's.
No, even coming here, like there's someone and this was like, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning or something, and somebody was right up behind me, so I just slowed down a bit, and then they could overtake.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had a more combative kind of resistance thing, I'd be like, oh, why is he doing that?
They'd be swerving so they can't get past.
Brake suddenly, or go faster than him so he can't overtake.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, he's obviously going faster than I am, so I'll just allow him to overtake.
Yeah.
And it's no skin off.
Yeah, whatever.
So, it's making a conscious decision to do that.
Right, but that initial conscious decision you're making is what is stopping it. You're saying. So what I'm saying is. So what are you saying that? No, I'm joking.
That's where the control is.
Yeah. But the control.
That space in between.
That's my so.
How am I going to react to this? It's making a decision to react instead of your body's. Oh, my body's taken over. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've just noticed that my body's taken over. So how do I want to deal with that?
And excuse me, that is where you can get in before it happens. What I was saying earlier about you can't control it is once the chain reaction has started, it's very difficult to control. Once you've got angry and you're in that zone, you're not going to very easily find your way out of it. Very quick, you can find it quick. I've certainly find it quicker now. I can get myself out of it far quicker than I used to be able to. But yeah, you're right. So what you're saying is what I was saying. You don't want to go down that road in the first place. So the second it starts to be that there's a combative element, if you can actually nip that in the bud before neurons are firing and chemicals are being produced, then yes, you will divert the neurons, and which ones are firing, and you're good.
It's like when you get really angry, someone's right up in your face and your heart's pounding so much, you're like, I just want to punch you in the face right now because you're invading my territory.
Yeah.
And someone's right in your face, and you know when someone's like, and you're just like, and to do nothing it involves a lot of discipline.
Yes, and it's quite
because it's full restraint of yourself.
And it's also quite
I've had
powerful.
that so many times where people have come up and because I've pissed someone off or something, and they've come up right into me, and I'm not going to react. I'll respond, but I'm not going to start anything.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult because it's sort of like you have to have full control over your own emotions, because else emotions are the way that other people control you.
Yeah.
By getting you, and you say, oh, they make me do it. Oh, no, it's because you gave them your emotions. You let them in, because that's the emotions is the way to get into getting people to do what you want. So if you don't have control of your emotions, somebody else is going to be. So that's why it's so important. Or nature will be. Like you've got to. That's why it's important to take responsibility for them, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when driving so fast.
Yeah. So I think
you need to sleep.
Yeah. What time are we at? 1 minute 30. There you go. 1 hour 30. Sorry, I'm not even.
Time becomes irrelevant.
No, it seems like 1 minute 30. It doesn't seem like an hour and a half we've been talking. Yeah, because I'm going to go and sit with Arthur for a bit and have a sleep and watch a movie and do all of that. But yeah, I think.
You look like you're gonna fall asleep.
Yeah, well, you know, I think the other thing, and again, I accept it. I'm exhausted because I know that I know that my body is it's in stress from it's still trying to it wants me to behave differently. But again, if you notice that, I notice how much more I'm buzzing, which is probably adrenaline, which is why I'm tired but I'm wide awake, which is the aftermath of I say not, we didn't bury Olivia obviously, but having a funeral service and a box sitting there with your child in it, it is an unsolvable problem. But if you accept it, which is what happened. But nevertheless, you know, you're a human being and your body is physiologically responding to that.
I think sleep's a big thing because that's the way in which you integrate new experiences, emotions, and all that kind of, and it gives your body time to put everything in its right place.
And you know,
that's why we need sleep so much.
Yeah, Amy's been having all kinds of weird dreams. I don't seem to be having any dreams at the minute. I don't seem to be, or certainly I'm not aware. I don't think. I certainly don't wake up thinking, oh god, that was weird. Although I had one or two, but that were very bizarre. But mostly not. And sleep doesn't seem to really make me wake up refreshed at the minute. I don't wake up feeling like I've slept, even though I might have slept for longer than I would normally sleep, which has happened a lot since Olivia died, in fact. But I think that is literally, like you say, your body just shutting you down to do a lot of repair work. And it just can't. It's like when they're fixing the motorway, right? You know, they shut it down every night for 3 years, and it never seems to move on very much, but they get something done every night, and I think that's what sleep is for you. But I think at the same time, mentally speaking, I think so. I think there's a physiological response that I'm experiencing, because maybe there's subconscious aspects of this that are happening that I'm not really aware of. But absolutely accepting it is gold, if you can do it. And you do it by looking after yourself, treating yourself kindly, or no kindly. No, I don't like that. No, treating yourself with care. That's the important thing. I think care is very different to kind. We're gonna have to explore that. We'll have to go away.
I can't stand the be kind.
We'll have to do our homework on that. But I think so. That's the loving and lovely thing. I think kind is lovely. Loving is care. And the difference is this, and I'll explain why. So you can be insipid. I know insipidly is the right word, but you can be kind, just like I just
don't want the instruction. I don't want anyone to tell me how to be.
I'm not saying you should.
Be kind.
I'm not. You're not listening though. Put your listening ears on. Put your listening ears on. See, I'm trying to explain the difference between. Yeah, well, I am telling you to listen. That's not telling you how to be. I'm just telling you to listen.
Yeah, I don't like instructions.
And I'm telling you why you don't like it, or I'm trying to explain why I think you don't like it, or why I don't like it. Then, all right.
Hypnotist on stage, cluck like a chicken.
No,
Be
look.
kind.
Look, I'm just saying that loving and lovely. So loving is also is everything. So care is everything. So care may be to care for you. I have to actually, cause you some pain or tell you something you don't want to hear or give you a caring seize or I'm caring for you as a nurse. I'm a doctor. I've got to take blood out of your arm. I'm going to put a needle in you. Sometimes care isn't what you might call conventionally. Care is I just want the best for you, but the best for you may be that I have to amputate your leg because I'm a doctor and you've just had your that so care can mean is a search for is me trying to do the best for you, but whatever the best is for you.
Yeah, it's when you see the people that have all the acid burns all down the leg and it swells up and they have to cut them in order to relieve all the...
Yeah.
And so, but that's...
I care.
That's an actual caring act.
That's a caring act.
Because then you're going to get poisoned.
But I'm actually cutting you open.
Yeah, so it's
but I'm
it's the lesser
or,
of the two
giving
evils,
somebody a tracheotomy because they just can't breathe in the streets.
Exactly,
Going, no, well, I'm going to stab this biro through your neck. Well, but I'm doing it.
Biro?
I've seen how you do it.
No, don't show me.
So if you want to do a tracheotomy on somebody, you can use one of these, right? And you have to take the pen apart. And you have to get that end out, which is quite different. What I'd probably do is snap it if I was in a hurry, and then basically
use the snapped end.
Right? Yeah. Do you think I'm joking?
No,
right. So if I could get that out really quickly, otherwise I just snapped it, and then what I would do is that goes in here.
Yeah.
So you see this soft bit here? I think that's right. We'll check it. You basically.
I think it's right.
You
About that.
you. But that if somebody.
What's that called? A tracheotomy, is it?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. I mean that's a really you would really not want to do that. But
No.
if somebody was actually dying, that would be a pretty caring act.
He was
they
dying by
wouldn't.
the roadside. Oh no. What happened was, I thought you had road rage. No, I just performed a tracheotomy on him because it was pissing me off.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, I'm going to double check now because this is on YouTube, so somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. Anyway, look, whereas kind is being lovely, like everything's all right. Don't worry, it'll be fine. All that kind of thing.
It's gazing over. That's what I don't.
Yeah, and it's like saying, don't worry, it's okay.
Yeah, it's almost denial in a way.
Yeah, and also, so in the thinking environment thing, not that we're going to talk about that now, but we have this. There's this thing in the thinking environment called it's a general thing. It's called infantilization, and infantilization is where I treat you like a child. You can't do, and this is exactly you'll love infantilization. You need to look it up.
You'll love infantilization.
No.
Like a child, you'll love it. You'll love it.
Okay, you won't. Fine.
So that's the pissed offness that I was talking about that I bring out to people.
Yeah, because you're a knob at times. That's why. All right, you won't love it. You will love it. I don't care whether you do or you don't. But what infantilization is what you're talking about. That's the word for what you're saying about kind. Right? Kind is, or infantilization is this. Infantilization is where you treat somebody like a child. Essentially, you don't treat them like a grown-up who can think for themselves.
Okay.
Right. So basically, it's accepting that you're smart enough to do it for yourself and look after yourself and think for yourself. Because if I go, oh, don't worry, Doug, it's all right, mate. I'm treating you like a child, really. Because I can't just me saying don't worry, it's all right. It isn't going to change anything.
It's trusting that people are intelligent enough to be able to self-regulate.
Yeah. So if I offer you different things other than kindness, which I think the environment does, maybe I give you the encouragement, the strength, by supporting you, by giving you my attention, all those other things that help you bring yourself to what you need. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about it is that's really important with the thinking environment that's very different to regular therapy is the assumption that I know what you need.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I can't know that is because I don't know everything about you.
I think the thinking environment taps into the idea of things as self-regulatory, so you're providing a structure whereby people can examine that and allow that process to play out.
Yeah, it's in a sense a way of supporting somebody to look after themselves. So it's care in the sense that you're one thing I like the idea of is that I can't help anybody in the sense of I can't make things better for you. I can't make things better for anybody. But what I can do is it's a bit like the help somebody help themselves thing. What I can do is give you some talk, maybe help you by you finding by helping you find for yourself what you need.
It gives the space and the structure for people to be able to look at themselves and take some time out and literally time to think. You know.
Yeah, it's time to think, but it's
creating an environment as opposed to a procedural, you know, problem solution thing.
What you're doing is you're recreating. It's almost like you're creating. You're creating an environment in which you are likely to think best, and that is things like this room we're in. The actual place. We would call it place.
It's a bit like a gym in a way. It's sort of like saying, here's a gym. Oh, run on the treadmill. I'll lift weight. You do whatever you want in the gym, but here's the gym. I'm giving you the tools and the space to be able to do what you want to have do and see what do you want to do. You follow it, and they create their own little program.
Yeah,
because they know what they want to do. Oh, I feel like going for work because everybody's different. Oh, I feel like using the treadmill. Oh, actually, I feel like lifting weights. Oh, I just want to lay down and do some yoga. But here's a gym. Here's all the facilities. Here's the tools that you need. But it's that, but in a sort of like psychological way as opposed to a physical way.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So you set up the environment. Because things you're trying not to do is say set off your fight or flight. So, and that's where things like advice are really bad. So when somebody gives you advice, generally speaking, even if you've kind of asked for it, it's basically infantilization. It's basically I'm treating you like
that's
an
what
idiot.
Be Kind is as well.
Yeah,
that's
it
giving
is.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah, and so advice is out. There's no advice. Because advice does tick all that bit of you that goes.
You question it. What does this person? Who's
You tell it. Who are you to tell me what to do? Which is your reaction.
Yeah.
To be kind. Who the hell are you to tell me what to do?
How did they know? Yeah.
How do you even know what I should do?
Yeah.
You don't know. And
I don't even know, and I know myself really well.
And this is why. Exactly. Well, you probably don't actually, but you know the point. You do subconsciously. You do.
Oh, why not?
Look, and the thing about it is this. That baby
Fight
jump.
or flight.
Yeah.
Response.
That was. Well, I saw a person coming for me. There we go. We'll keep that in because that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know quite why it fell off. Anyway, we've got to finish soon.
Yeah.
Okay, we're balancing that. I'm also quite highly strung right now.
Frame.
Yeah,
That's because the camera was fed up with having you for long.
Yeah.
So let's get Doug in there.
I think you were pretty predominant. Anyway, I don't care. What was I going to say? It's going to do it again. Look, she's gone cheeky on us. You've gone cheeky. Why have you gone cheeky? Spread you out a bit, so you. And then put you in there like that.
Yeah,
it's just Doug now. Yay! There we are. Right, so why is that happening?
I haven't got a smaller head. I'm just further away.
Size of this. If we do that, you see. If we do that, now it's balanced in the middle. Ah, you see. That's the way. There you go, Douglas.
Started how we finished. Finish how we started. Back up.
Yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. No. So the way the thinking environment is, the content of what you're saying actually to me is not irrelevant, but it's not. I'm only listening to the content from the point of view of trying to find out what it is that you're saying, and what question or what thing would get you to carry on thinking better or take you to the next piece that you're trying to get to.
Here's the question: what if I don't know what my problem is? Will the thinking environment still help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of cool, isn't it? Really, because not only are you saying you're not providing a solution to the problem, you're just providing the environment to be able to explore not only what the solution is for your own, that your intelligence already knows, but also you might not even know what the problem is to be able to come up with the solution.
Yeah, but you might be able to find it if I can help you find it. If there is one.
Yeah.
There may not even be a problem.
Because sometimes people just feel down or there's something missing, especially if they do have everything or they got what they wanted and they're still kind of depressed or anxious or whatever it may be. So they can come into a thinking environment to get rid of that, to feel more at ease with being.
Yeah. Because that's the beauty of it is that this isn't about finding problems, it's about solving problems, it's not about anything, it's about you doing your best thinking. Now, when you come to somebody to do some best thinking, you've already taken a certain amount of steps that you've decided there's something that you really want to work out. I have a problem. I can't do this. I can't. I'm feeling a bit depressed, but I don't really know why. And and I've seen already in the years I've been doing it all kinds of reactions. So you get people that go, "Oh, this is silly. I know. Well, I don't care. It's an hour out, man. I'm all right. Whatever. Okay." And you get, "What would you like to think about? What are your thoughts?" And they go, "I don't know. And then I did that for a couple of minutes and go, no, it's just silly." And I'm sitting there paying attention, not interrupting. I'm not going to react to you saying it's silly or anything like that. Whatever, it's your time, your content. And 5 minutes in, they'll go, "Yeah, well, I was just thinking about, well, I've got this thing." And then they kind of like get off the cuff go, and then that kind of evolves usually into something that's just miles away from them being, because all the thing at the beginning is when they're saying, "Well, I don't care," that's resistance usually. That's a level of, I don't want to tell you what my problem is, and I'm certainly not speaking to you about it, and I'm definitely not discussing it here.
Even though they've paid a fair amount of money to come and have a session with you to find out.
Yeah. But guess what? That's the front bit. That's like how we meet in the street. And but what the thinking environment thing seems to do from evidence is it seems to open up the doors past that. Because if I go on, Doug, tell me, what is your problem? You keep saying you've come here, you paid me all this money, and you're sitting there saying, well, I'm already conflicting with you. I'm already, or come on, Doug, you've got a problem. Let's hear it. Come on, what is it? Abused as a child, I don't know, whatever, but that's a terrible one. But it happens a lot, and it is something. But look, but if I just sit and give you attention, eventually that will almost certainly open a door, and you'll go.
What is it about attention, do you reckon, that is so helpful?
I think it's because we're starved of it. I think we are. I think it's an inherent nature that we're tribe animals, generally speaking. We kind of need each other to survive. Generally, I guess we've been able to get away from that quite a bit, but I think we're about to find out how much we are actually one massive tribe. And in other words, if all the lorry drivers don't bring food, we suddenly all need the lorry drivers, right? So I think there's that tribe element of it that's really and I don't know, but that we definitely crave attention. We definitely need, or attention definitely seems to do something. We need not connectedness. We need.
I think attention is the only currency we have. I think when you pay for somebody like an expert or something, you're paying for their attention because they have like a knowledge of something. So you're paying for that. When you're in a relationship with someone, you value their attention, that they're paying you over somebody else. In all relationships, work, professional or business or whatever, it's sort of like the only thing you have to give people is attention.
Yeah, and if you listen to marketers like Gary Vee and stuff, quite rightly, pretty much all he talks about is attention. Like what do you think all this is? If I get your attention because I'm saying something worth listening to, or whatever, it's not even whether it's worth listening to or not. That's a subjective thing. I mean, it depends who you are as to whether it's worth listening to or not. But nevertheless, attention is it. Attention. There's the Aldous Huxley book where all the parrots say the same thing, and it's funny that interestingly that my attention, my generative attention, it's nice how that sits with paying attention to the present moment. In other words, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? I'm paying attention to you like now. When I'm doing my listening, I'm listening to you, like really listening to you. But it brings you into the moment as well, I think. And attention is that too. I think there's something in that where those two things connect. The idea that me listening to you is attention, but it's also maybe focuses us right down to this moment a bit in a way that nothing else does.
You've got your conscious awareness, and so it's how that's directed is the attention. I see it sort of like attention is all you have to give people. It's the only currency there is going. When you give somebody attention, when you pay them it, you're paying with your time, your energy, your emotion, your all your resources and stuff, like things that you could turn to. Like, you get you're focusing, like that's all you have to give is attention.
Well, and it's a high value thing as well, like you say, because my attention could be spent surviving, right? So my attention is quite a precious thing for me to give you, because I could keep it where I choose. I have a relatively limited amount of time to give, and so me giving you an hour of my attention, my full that's a big give. That's a big give. There's a lot of value in that, and I think that's understood, and generates a very different response in the person that's talking to you.
I don't think so necessarily. I think what it is, and this is where another thing I find kind of like, how do you value it? Because what attention is valuable? Like say again, if you're electricity goes down, you need an electrician, so his attention is more valuable than a plumber's maybe, because of the nature of it's been segmented.
Yeah. Sort
of like, because you've got a problem to solve. Because that's we use attention to solve problems in order, because that's what life is. There's all these problems and we've got to solve them and overcome them. And that's what the thinking environment does. It's sort of like it helps you to notice where you're paying attention and how to redirect it so that it's more. It produces the response that you want, as opposed to an unhelpful response, maybe.
Yeah, and
the thing that I find, having done the relationships thing and all that lot, is the respect. Respect is so much, because if you respect somebody's attention, it makes all the difference. Whereas if somebody doesn't respect your attention, then you shouldn't pay them attention, because they don't value it. Yeah. It's like gold. It only becomes a resource when it's scarce, and I think that's why people. And that's why, like advertising and all that kind of stuff, attention is so valuable. Like Facebook and YouTube and all these conglomerates, they're all fighting for attention.
They are.
That's why we've got notifications on the phone. Oh, attention! Advertising.
Yeah, and yeah.
It trips, and our focus of attention is the strongest thing we have. And when we're tired, or when we're sort of distracted or interrupted, or internally or externally, it's broken down. So our focus is destroyed, and that's our most powerful asset.
Yeah.
To focus attention on something.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what you're getting in the thinking environment. You're getting focused attention.
Yeah.
It's like a laser beam.
It is
a dispersed. Ray of light.
It's generative attention, because there are very human elements, because the 10 components as are.
That's appreciation, equality, place, incisive questions.
Can you remember
off
them
the
all,
top of my
Dad?
head? I'm doing a Marlon Brando. I've got the script on the wall. Ease, attention, information, feelings, and my two favourite: diversity, equity. I like encouragement as well. But ease and attention. I think ease is a very good word. Very interesting to use as one of them.
Yeah. So ease is really important, because
it's not intimidating attention. It's ease attention.
Well, ease is really important, because that's what puts you. My ease puts you at your ease. In other words, my ease doesn't threaten you. So if I'm distracted or fidgety or something, you get that.
Because as a practitioner, you've got to go in kind of like wash your hands before you go in a bit. You've got to be prepared to go in to accept, what you're going to take on.
You've got to be, and this is where it's very valuable for me, because I have to learn to really calm myself down
and be clean in your interaction.
Be clear and be very, very, and just not judge. There's a huge lack of judgment in this as well. So it doesn't really matter what you say. I'm not going to judge that, because it's not my thing. It's your thing. All I'm interested in is helping you get that.
Just pop to the shop.
Okay. Get that better.
Do you need anything?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. All I'm trying to do is give you the opportunity to do your to kind of surround you and nurture you, or encourage you. Encouragement's in there, right? To do your best thinking by applying all the things that are, and there's kind of science in this as well, because if I'm at ease with you, if I'm paying you full attention, if I'm really listening to you, those are definitely generating the best possible circumstances in which you'll feel the most able. You're kind of almost wrapped up in a no, that's not quite
You're
right.
resonating with someone.
Well, yeah, and it's literally like I'm saying, here's all my energy, here's all my attention, here's my ease. I want you to be at ease. I'm going to be at ease. I'm not going to judge this. I'm not going to do this. So and then you will feel safe as houses to start saying, once you know, because you're going to check me out, you're going to test me out.
Yeah.
So the first 10, 15, 20 minutes can be a right old check out. Like, is he really looking? Is he really paying attention?
Because it's a new, no one's experienced
right.
it before. Yeah.
But then they start to notice it, and then they'll put their toe in the water and go, okay.
It's trust,
Yeah, it's trust. It's developing trust. It's like, and then sooner or later the floodgates open, and you're on a roll. And then people will often say, "Oh God, was that an hour? What, really?" Like, we've just had a conversation for nearly 2 hours, and it's the same principle. It's what we've been doing. It seems like a minute ago we started this conversation. Doesn't seem like 2 hours ago.
There's quality attention, and it's sort of like if you go in and you're having a bad day and you're frustrated, right, okay, I'm going to pay you attention, as opposed to coming in and just giving. There's that ease, I think, is a really good. It's fluidity.
Yeah.
And it puts you into flow state, and it allows the comfort to be there, to trust.
Yeah, and the attention is really important. I mean,
and respect, I think, is a huge one.
Yeah, I mean, some of those words. Place is quite important. In other words, you've got to feel safe. Like in this nice, lovely room we're in now. Place is very important. It has to be the right place.
I wonder what that meant by place. Yeah.
Place is just
the environment, basically.
The environment you're in, like the place you're in. Like, is it comfortable? Are you comfortable? Are you warm enough? Do you feel at ease in this place? Do you feel comfortable? Right? Do you feel like you won't be threatened?
Do you know why inquisitive? Or is it inquisitive or incisive?
So incisive questions is that's
it got a dot next to it?
Because it's a trademark. So incisive questions is